Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into how listening to podcasts can be, well, a seriously powerful tool for you to speak fluent English.
Exactly. And we're looking at sources that don't just explain why podcasts work, but importantly, they give practical step-by-step advice on how you can actually use them. Whether you're just starting or trying to polish your skills.
Right. Our mission here is to pull out the most effective strategies, the really actionable stuff, to help you sound more natural, understand native speakers better, and really build that confidence.
Okay, let's unpack this. So based on the sources, what is it about podcasts that really makes them a kind of game changer for English fluency?
What's really interesting is how they connect, classroom learning with actual real-world English. Podcasts expose you to authentic language. It's not just scripted dialogues. You hear real conversations, slang, and crucially, that natural rhythm and intonation of native speakers. That's something textbooks just can't capture. Plus, the flexibility is huge.
Yeah, the flexibility. You can listen anytime, anywhere, commuting, working out, whatever. And there's such a huge variety of topics. It keeps you interested. It turns learning into something, well, enjoyable.
That point about authentic rhythm is so important. But it's not just background noise, is it? The sources really stress active listening. What does that actually mean in practice?
Exactly right. Passive listening is one thing, but active listening means you're really focusing, leaning into the sounds.
Okay.
It means concentrating on specific words, picking up on the intonation, the melody of the voice, and understanding how expressions are used naturally. And here's a key tip from the sources. Pausing and repeating sentences out loud.
Oh, okay.
That's immediate practice for your pronunciation. It gets your mouth moving.
I can definitely see how that immediate repetition helps. What other techniques did the sources highlight for really getting the most out of listening?
Yeah, taking notes is strongly recommended. Not just new words, but how speakers use stress and intonation on those words.
The emphasis.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this technique called shadowing. You listen to a short bit of audio, maybe a sentence or two, and then you repeat it aloud right away.
Okay, like mimicking.
Exactly. But you're trying to match everything, the rhythm, the pronunciation, the rise and fall of the voice. It's like physical training for your mouth and ears to make those English sounds naturally. It builds muscle memory for fluency.
Physical training for fluency, I like that. So after you've done all this active listening and shadowing, what's the next step? How do you start producing your own English?
Good question. After listening, the sources suggest you practice speaking. A really effective way is to just summarize what you heard in your own words.
Right. Forces you to process it.
It does. And an even more powerful step. Record yourself doing that summary, or maybe responding to the podcast topic. Then listen back and compare it to the original podcast speaker.
Oh, interesting. Self-correction.
Exactly. It gives you really specific feedback on where you can improve.
That makes a lot of sense. But, sticking with it, consistency can be tough. How do the sources suggest you make this active approach a real habit?
Yeah, that's often the hard part. The key seems to be making it a small, regular part of your routine. Set a daily goal, maybe just 10 minutes to start.
Okay, manageable.
Very. And don't get bogged down trying to understand every single word, especially at first. Focus on the main ideas. Your vocabulary will grow over time.
Right, focus on the gist.
Exactly. And maybe consider joining, like an online group or forum, about the podcasts you listen to. Discuss the topics. It lets you use what you're learning in actual conversations.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening? Podcasts aren't just background noise. They're a really dynamic, flexible, and honestly effective way to seriously boost your English fluency. If you make this active listening a consistent part of your routine, you will see your confidence and speaking skills improve.
Definitely. And maybe the final thought for you is this. How will you specifically start weaving these techniques, active listening, shadowing, summarizing, consistent practice, into your daily podcast habit? How will you use them to really unlock your fluent English voice?